Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to another Webinar Wednesday hosted by CSU Bakersfield Small Business Development Center. Today we're doing number 98 in our series of Managing Your Small Business Beyond the Pandemic webinar. So again, good afternoon. My name is Kelly Bearden and I am the director of the CSU Bakersfield SBDC. Thank you for joining us today. Got a lot to go over. This is the one time each month, generally one time each month, that no guest. So we're going to go through a lot of what's going on with some of the newer programs that are coming. It's pretty exciting. Some of the stuff that's kind of being kind of promised to us and is coming our way now. So what's up today, January 26th? We're going to look at a lot of the pandemic relief programs. We have a lot of programs that are still available and more that are becoming online. We have details that are emerging on a few grant programs. We'll go over basically 3 programs that are going to be starting as soon as maybe late next week and then throughout the spring. Now, why do we start talking about a program that's not open yet? It gives you the opportunity to get ready and to look at the needs of that particular program and to see if it fits you. You'll understand the commitment that it's going to take in order to get, free money or so-called free money. We were always told there's no such thing as a free lunch. And so we'll find out where the details are and all the issues that are going on with that. We do know that Omicron is trucking right along and continuing to cause a great deal of infection in our communities throughout California and the country. And hopefully we are moving on beyond Omicron and getting back to our recovery. Our recovery is kind of a little bit stuck in gear. So some of the issues that keep popping up that we've talked about over so many weeks of the last 97 weeks, we've talked about the inflation issues on small businesses and the supply chain problems. One thing that's interesting, I did read that the trucking industry, even when the supply chain issue resolves, will be one that is still in demand. So really a lot of opportunity there for our friends out there that have trucking firms, want to get into trucking and so forth. So Omicron trucks on as well. Glance at a little bit of the news out there this week, not much time for that. We will take your questions to the best of our ability at the end. And today we have a poll. And I get to read the disclaimer today. So keep in mind this information can change often and is based on our current understanding of these programs. They change and they likely will and can change as we go. We encourage you to consult with your legal representation, your CPAs, accountants, financial advisors, or your SBDC consultant for the latest and best information possible. So we promised you a poll today, and we're going to actually jump into 3 polls on 3 different kind of functionality issues. First, we're going to ask a question based on capital. And so this is one where you get to identify if you have a capital need in 2022, how much are you going to need? So I'm going to launch this poll, and it's how much capital do you need if you need capital in 2022? Is it $10,000 or less? Is it $10,000 to $50,000? Is it $50,000 to $250,000, $250,000 to $1 million, or over $1 million? So if you have a need for capital, if your business is going to need capitalization in 2022, what size of capital do you need? And again, I'm asking you what you need, not what you want. I mean, I'm sure you'd all want over $1 million, but there's oftentimes that repayment issue and scaling to that size of a business. So we're looking at about how much you need today. So right now we have about 58% of you that are participating. Give you just a few more seconds to jump in. We'll ask the question one last time. If you need capital in 2022, do you need 10,000? You need 10 to 50,000, 50 to 250, from 250 to $1 million or over $1 million. Okay, we see that 67% of you have now participated in the poll. Thank you. That's a great big sample. And we're going to share the results of this first poll. And 52% of you, half of you out there, need between $10,000 and $50,000. So that is good to know. Another 24% are at 50 to 250,000. 20% of you are 10,000 and less. So, you know, it's the 80-20 rule in reverse. We'll call it the 80-20, excuse me, the 20-80 rule today. 1 out of 5 of you want 10,000 or less. And also 4% want over $1 million. So thank you. That is the informational part, the learning part for me. And I know at times you like it when we get a little more whimsical and a little bit more learning also. So let's go to the learning question of the day. This is one that I think I might have got wrong myself. So what we're wondering is, do you have an idea of what is the highest rate since the year 2000? And I see our poll has been interrupted. So what I'm going to do is, apparently our poll got ended with the recording and it's interrupted. And what I'm going to do is share the results of what we had with 40% of you in. If you didn't get in, I apologize for this. It looks like the poll was somewhat aborted. But we have 6.5% of you, 38%. And honestly, that would have probably been my guess too. The correct answer is 9.5%, going all the way back to the year actually 2000, the summer of 2000. And 29% came in at 3.5%. So 9.5 has been the highest. It's really interesting when these interest rates get rolling and they get kind of stuck on a particular time. We were at 3.25 for a good part of the last 2 decades, a good part. Consequently, we have 20.5% there that nobody fell for, but the prime rate was 20.5% back in, I believe it was 1981. 1981 at 20.5%, and the prime rate was over double digits, over 10% for 7 years consecutively. So that's our risk with inflation, is high interest rates, high borrowing, and a very tough time of trying to actually move on from there. Okay, we're going to ask one last question, and now we get to get whimsical because you guys asked for whimsical questions. And a lot going on in China these days. The Chinese small businesses just really have had 2 really horrible years. Sure, there's been a pandemic, and I believe that the government programs have not been as supportive to their small businesses. The small businesses that are going through such tough times are creating problems with our logistics and other things. But really, the main holiday in China is New Year's Day, and they're going to be celebrating that next Tuesday. So my question to you today, with our whimsical question, what year is it? Is it the year of the donkey? Is it the year of the tiger, the year of the rat, or the year of the snake? So Chinese New Year is coming up. The Olympics are starting in 9 days. We got all kinds of Chinese vessels sitting off the port. It's getting longer. Our supply chains are growing longer. There was actually, even ironically, LG of South Korea came out with a new energy company saying we're making batteries and we're not in China. So people are even using that as a marketing aspect. So with poor old China getting picked on so much these days, with the year, what year is it? In 2022. We have almost half of you participating. I'll give you another couple seconds to jump in, and we will share this poll with you. And there we go. Yes, 49% of you, the year of the tiger, that is correct. Might bode well for one golfer out there. It is not the year of the snake. It is not the year of the rat. And where I think there's a year of the horse, if there was a year of the donkey, that would have been the year I was born in, probably. Okay, so that's it for our whimsical question, our 3 poll questions today. We'll stop that and let's start moving on. So a lot to go over as we kind of set it up today, and a lot to talk about. So really, one of the things that I wanted to do before, we move too far along, and that is to wish Webinar Wednesday a happy 9th birthday. This week, 9 years ago, we did our very first Webinar Wednesday. I just wanted to make sure that we had a good shout out to presenters, any of our presenters that are out there, guest hosts, those who helped us organize Webinar Wednesdays, our guests, our sponsors, and of course, you, our attendees, and our SBDC clients and our local businesses. But we've also had great production assistants and marketing pros that have worked with us, and our CSUB staff. For our first probably 60 webinars were done on campus at CSUB underneath the library. So we were there for so long in a soundproof booth we used to call the fallout shelter. Thanks again to all the faculty and student interns and all of our small business organizational partners, chambers, and downtown business associations and other business organizations, and so many more of you. So thank you. And then just a sidebar, this was the cake that we celebrated last year. That cake has been eaten, that chocolate cake. It was delicious, I have to admit. And this just goes to show you can have your cake and eat it too. It is right there. So I do notice it is a lot easier to use last year's cake and repeat it a second year than trying to explain to people how a cake is actually being used for celebration and marketing our SBDC webinar program. So let's move on. Let's get to the aspects that we're all here for today, and these are the pandemic relief programs. The pandemic relief programs that we still have access to and can still utilize. We have the Employee Retention Credit, the ERC. The ERC remains open. It goes back to the fourth quarter of 2020 retroactively, and it ended on September 30th of 2021. It is an employee retention credit. We'll probably try to get into that a little bit more, what's going on in the status of that. But really you can, and now is really a good time for many businesses who may not have taken advantage of the employee retention credit, is to look through the qualifications. And as you start to approach your accountant, if you haven't done so already on this topic, maybe asking some questions on if you could even qualify, even if you only had an employee or two. There are some exclusions to that. Obviously, you had to have suffered some economic hardship in order to access the ERC. We're looking into some other areas to where you can actually qualify for that. But really, your tax professional, your financial professional is a great person to talk to on the ERC. And the ERC, I have to tell you, for the clients that have got it and have spoke to me, and there have been literally dozens and dozens, it's been very, very, very profitable, very resourceful. So keep that in mind, that ERC is out there. We also have the City of Bakersfield Restart Loan to Grant program, and then there's also a smaller micro-granting program that is open. Access Plus Capital is working on that, or also you can consequently contact the Kern Women's Business Center. And one of those two fine organizations can help you with the City of Bakersfield programs. Today, we're going to get into some of the details of the program that's going to be opening. I'm hoping it's going to open by the end of next week. We'll have a date for you next Wednesday, but it's the Kern County MicroGrant program. And it is going to open in early February. We'll get into that in more detail. We're going to talk a lot about today the California Dream Fund that we anticipate opening in about another month. And that is the grants to new businesses, and we'll go into the criteria. It's not quite as easy as, kind of back up the truck and load up the 10s and 20s and small bills and drive away. But there are requirements for training and consulting and a business plan, and we'll get into those today. We talked a little bit in the past about the state small business credit initiative, and this was $10 billion federally, of which we anticipate the state of California to receive approximately 1.1 billion. It has been reported online on on state of California websites, that the monies would be split. They would be split between the California Pollution Control Authority and also the California iBank, with another 200 million for venture capital. We'll talk a little bit more on that, not as much. We'll mention today PPP forgiveness. We'll run into time. We'll talk about the EIDL loans, and the EIDL loan is closed, but you still can increase the size of your economic injury disaster loan. You can still request an increase, and you can still request reconsideration if you were previously denied. Those are two things that are still ongoing, even though they are no longer accepting applications from new applicants. And also, you can also go through the reconsideration process for the EIDL targeted advance that was targeted for lower income census tracts. So if you were denied there, you can still seek reconsideration. Other than that, the program is closed. And also closed with no further processing is the EIDL loan program supplemental advance. So that's kind of a quick run through as we kind of move along. And really the first thing that we're going to jump into today and talk about is the Kern County Small Business MicroGrant program. The program yesterday before the Kern County Board of Supervisors was officially rolled into place, and it is going to begin in early February. As we have mentioned, the entire county of Kern is represented. There will be 4 nonprofits, including the CSU SBDC and also the CAPK, the Community Action Partnership Kern, the Kern Economic Development Foundation, and the Kern Women's Business Center that are also working to get out essentially about 370 of these $2,500 grants. So each of us will be kind of marketing and targeting a rural area in addition to doing other loans throughout the community. So it is designed for underserved members of the community. We'll kind of go through the 2-page draft application. The application is not final. It should be finalized next week. But we will go through the draft because I think it is substantially complete and gives you an idea about eligibility. And if you can start planning toward maybe applying for the Kern County Small Business MicroGrant program. The business must have had revenues in 2019 of less than $50,000. Must have been in business in 2019. It is not for startups or businesses that started during the recovery. So you also must have had, and most I think it's true with businesses that are less than $50,000 in gross revenue, unless of course it was a startup that only maybe functioned for a month or two. But most of them did have 4 or fewer full-time equivalents, which also obviously would equate out to 8 half-time, part-time employees. So there's a little on that program. I'm gonna pull my share up and let me do a change of my share right now, and hopefully I can get this thing to work today. So one thing that we will kind of look at is this application form. And the application form, one thing that is kind of really unique and different as I dig for it now, thank you technology, is that again, it is starting off, you do have to identify being served by some form of actual underserved community. So in that, they're looking for businesses. And please, if you have any questions, please put them in the question box. We will answer them afterwards. There's no need to raise hands today. We will not be opening any mics or stopping during the presentation. So please go there to the question box and we will address those at the completion of today. So the application actually is going to start by showing the underserved members of the community. You must be underserved, and that includes being a woman, a veteran, persons of color, Hispanic, also people that live in rural areas or are actually members of the community in a low wealth area, low wealth community. So those are pretty much the main categories for that. There we go. See, honestly, I did not plan on sharing it this way today. My apologies. but next week we will have that fixed and definitely go through there. So in looking at the basic 2-page application, it'll ask you to check the box of what I've just identified as far as if you're underserved. You will need to provide your DBA, and your DBA being your actual doing business as or trademark. And then it's just basically contact information with your business legal name, address, taxpayer identification number, either being a Social Security, an EIN, an ITIN, etc. And then we go through other processes that are going to look at the applicant ownership. If you have anyone who is 10% or more an owner of the particular business, you will have to identify them by name, title, ownership, and also their taxpayer identification number and address. So when we get into program eligibility, here are the questions that are going to be asked of you. It's going to ask if you were a micro business operating prior to December 31st, 2019. Is the micro business currently active? So you must be still active in business, operating, or have a clear plan to reopen once the state permits reopening of your business. Was it significantly impacted by COVID-19? Another question. The fourth question will be, does the micro business have less than 50,000 in revenues in 2019, as you see? Does the micro business have a physical presence in California? In the state of California, it has to have a physical presence. And also, does the micro business have fewer than 5 full-time employees? So you see those listed there. Those are the questions. Also on here, there will be a question if you received the California MicroGrant program. So if you did receive 5, 15, or 25 through the California Micro Relief Program, then actually you are not eligible. This is for those that missed out on the California Micro Grant Program, or California Relief Program, I believe it was called. So you might recall, if you went through that, you dealt with an Lindustry.com on their platform. And again, that will be one of the requirements that are checked and verified before we go any further on applications. So that is one of the things you can't have both of those two, cannot have both of those two things. So it'll ask if the micro business primarily engaged in political or lobbying activities. If it's a financial institution, these such as a finance or factoring company. If it restricts patronage for any reason other than capacity, those are all denials. And then also if the owner, then there's a question regarding having been convicted of a civil judgment, has commenced parole or other things along those lines, criminally charged with a crime, etc. The business received funding from the California Small Business Relief Grant Program. So that's it, pretty much. That's the first page. On the back is basically, you will need to attest, and there are some attestations and authorizations. You will need to sign this under the penalty of perjury, need to produce a business license, permit, bank statement, 2019 tax return. Also, you can have a trade account or third-party verification. Then you'll need to identify what the grant funds are to be utilized for. So the choices, there are several, and also that there are some that you can actually, I think we'll have another line on there too, but it's for the purchase of equipment or fixtures. Is it an investment in working capital? Renewal of any permits, licenses, or other fees. You have any payment of business debt. So maybe you have a small business loan, and this could go toward helping to pay those. But you have to identify business-related expenditures on how these funds would be used. Also, the last one would be any cost resulting from COVID-19 related health and safety issues. And then you just sign that you're the owner and designate the group, and basically it's done. Voila, 2 pages. Sorry, I'm having a problem sharing that. But that's what it's going to be. And when we have the final version next week and have the technology issue fixed, we'll be back for that. Okay, so that's the California Dream Fund. Again, $2,500, small businesses that did not receive the California Relief Grant and a few other things. We're also going to talk in maybe a little greater detail about the California Dream Fund grant. So kind of the summary of what it is it was $35 million from the state of California that was designated to seed entrepreneurship and small business creation in underserved communities. So there will be grants that are either $5,000 or $10,000 to new business starts that actually go through the prescribed list of items that we're going to go through and complete a number of the things that are going to be necessary to receive that grant. And really, when you're looking at this right now, if you're looking at the California, the California Dream Fund, what I want you to do is I want you to visualize how that $5,000 or $10,000 would help you grow and sustain your business. And that is really the goal behind this program. And really the intent of this program is to build sustainable small businesses. So it's really an important time and process that you go through before they will award you the $5,000 to $10,000 to look into the various aspects of what can make this a sustainable, growable small business down the road. So this $35 million was available to over 50 providers that actually work with the state of California's Office of Small Business Advocate. And so what are you going to need to do? Complete some training, a business plan, and perhaps technical assistance along the way. Technical assistance being OneonOne Consulting. So a little bit about the program. It was created in 2021, passed into law by Senate Bill 151, with the intent to seed entrepreneurship and small business creation in underserved small business groups that are facing capital and opportunity gaps. So there's your intent right there. That is what it is designed for. And it was, again, only available through existing partners of the California Small Business Office. We're part of that program. They have a program called the Technical Assistance Expansion Program, of which the Central California region that I showed you earlier, that map of Central California, the Central California and the other 5 SBDCs in that region applied and was notified recently, very recently, of an $800,000 grant to actually administer and roll out this program. This program's probably about 4 weeks from being rolled out. So here are the requirements of what you're going to need if you want to access a California California Dream Fund grant. So you're going to need to be a participating entrepreneur. That's what your title is going to be. And as a participating entrepreneur, you must complete a defined business training. Also agree to and go through one-on-one business consulting, which is confidential, with an SBDC consultant in our case, and provide a workable business plan. Now, in addition to the SBDC here in Kern County, there could be other resources that are available, as there are other entities that actually were able to apply. At the time of this webinar today, I do not know if other technical assistance providers locally will be participating in the California Dream Fund. I hope they are, because that provides more entrepreneurial capital for our businesses here in Kern. But as I learn more on that particular issue, I will talk that up in the next few Wednesdays. So also, as the participating entrepreneur, you must have established a legal entity after July 1, 2019. Now, this is a new program, and there's going to be some issues that come up that will need to be clearly defined, because this is one that actually caught me by surprise, because that they were going back to July 1. My interpretation of this, until I know more, of which by the time the program starts in 4 weeks, I will know more than I know today. But having been established a legal entity as of after July 1st of 2019 tells me that you could have started the business after July 1 of 2019 and really haven't got it rolling, or haven't really initiated it, and haven't completed all the steps needed to be ingoing business as the definition is in this particular program. And we will go over that definition of a new business start. So my thinking is that you could have started after July 1 of 2019, but participating entrepreneurs must meet the definition of a new business start. So what is the definition of a new business start? Well, I'm going to tell you that. So number one, it has acquired the necessary permits to operate legally, and at least one of the following has occurred. Now, I added the word all to the actual legal definition. And because it's been my experience, and I have witnessed this on several occasions, that oftentimes small businesses think that they have all the necessary permits. One example could have been, let's see, we had a food processor, and it was a new food processing business that had pretty much, it looked like all of their necessary permits. But the state of California required a California cannery license, even though it was a very small producer. So the California cannery license or producer actually came up, and actually they really weren't considered officially in business until they received that. So, but you are going to need your necessary licenses and permits. You're having to do one of the following to be a new business start. You have had to make a first sale, or you've had to hire at least one employee, or created a banking relationship, or incurred a business expense or business expenses. And that even could include startup cost, that may include accounting and legal fees in starting that legal entity. Now, if I go back here, it says you have to have established a legal entity. Generally when I read that language, it's telling me that you would have needed to establish an LLC or an incorporation, a partnership, a limited partnership, or some other that is beyond the scope of just an individual sole proprietor that starts a business. I really don't think that that is going to be the intent as we move closer to the 4-week opening. I'm thinking established a legal entity could be by taking out the business license, by getting the fictitious county statement and running it for 4 weeks in the newspaper, and actually getting your official doing business as. So that is one thing that I will seek clarification on, and when I know more, I will get it for you. So as the California actual Dream Fund grant, the training component is you will need to complete 8 modules. This is required from the state, from all of the entities that assist entrepreneurs with this. So you will need to complete 8 of 11 allowable topics, and we'll go through those topics next. The sessions are going to be 60 to 90 minutes. Attendees can participate in person or via online training. And also the training can be specific to an industry. It can be specific to a certain demographic. Say, in our case, for example, the demographic could be people of color, it could be minorities, it could be in Spanish by being a language specific. It could be in rural areas where they have travel, so it could be specific to rural travel industries. So there's a lot of different ways that the training can be delivered specifically. When we get the exact notification on that, we will let you know. So the California Dream Fund, here are the training topics that we have. These are the 11. There only needs to be 8 of these that are selected. And this is going to be a class. And again, this is requiring a commitment on your part. This is going to require you to do a particularly, go through a particular class that's going to consist of at least 8 of these programs for at least an hour and a half. There will be homework, because I would assume that in many of these programs, the intent is to end up with that workable business plan when you get done. Now, I'm not talking about a business plan that is, say, an equity investor business plan where you need to have everything thought of and detailed and be able to pitch that. but it needs to be something that works as a roadmap for you and your business in order to make it sustainable. The sustainability part of this is what is really crucial. And you get this opportunity and you get this initial funding. There might be ways for you to leverage if you say, gee, $10,000 or $5,000 would be nice. But can I leverage this into perhaps another small business loan? And most small business lending programs require a down payment that a grant program like this would be for. This is why the training, the one-on-one consulting with your SBDC consultant is going to be so crucial in this, because there are options and ways to make this at least give you a greater chance of success, to make it more sustainable and give you the opportunity to grow that small business over time. So again, it's going to be the topics, go through them real quick: entrepreneurial mindset or feasibility. So, I think really, I think entrepreneurial mindset is really, really key and important. Most of you, I think, have that if you're on this particular webinar today. The project feasibility is something that really, from at least a macro standpoint, a big overview, is something that I think is really important to do in a project at the very earliest phase. Business planning. Here at the SBDC in the Central California region, we use an online platform and do our business planning online, which works really, really conveniently with your particular consultant, and also being able to work with them in a particular platform. So the platform just gives you both access to it over time, and it is a fundamental, the templates, everything. It works really, really, really fantastic. There's a component on business communication, on writing, business writing, and pitching your particular proposal for future investment. Licensing and permitting is obviously important. In the state of California, with the Dream Fund grant program, wants to have businesses that are legal, licensed, and properly permitted. Really the market analysis and planning. I always think the market analysis is so vitally important of any business planning process, any feasibility study, or any time you look into a particular project. And the reason is that the market analysis is essentially going to be the customers that you are going to hopefully sell to. And then also it's going to be your competition that you work with and the environment that you work into. The market analysis and understanding that is, I think, critical to the longer term success of a particular startup venture. The financial side of things, being able to, you don't need to master the financial side of things and the profit and loss statement and these things, but it's just kind of nice to get acquainted with them and to try to understand and to try to look at what can be done. I don't anticipate this class is going to, if you don't know how to read a financial statement, say a P&L, profit and loss statement, or a balance sheet, it's not going to give you those tools, but it's something that can acquaint you with some of the terms and give you the opportunity to perhaps learn down the road that really important aspect of being able to read and interpret what's going on in your business through their financial statements. Accessing capital and financial literacy. And part of that financial literacy would be interpreting those financial statements, but accessing capital and looking for where, now that you have this seed funding, or if you get this seed funding, where are you going to go with your business from here? The financial management and accounting, we can get into the marketing aspect, which is obviously going to be huge with digital marketing, social media marketing, some of the more traditional forms of advertising and public relations, and also being able to use those in tandem and use those cooperatively to actually get your message across to your customers. Also establishing online marketplaces and payment systems. So the class will probably consist of 8 or 11 of these. I don't know if it's going to be a smorgasbord where I would like this and that and pick and choose, or if it's going to be a set program. But really, I really see at least the Central California SBDC program working with sustainable individuals wanting to start sustainable businesses by starting with a sustainable plan. And that sustainable plan is a business plan that would come out of this training. So now that you have that training, you will likely be meeting with an SBDC consultant. And I really am a firm believer that training and one-on-one consulting work in tandem. They work and really complement each other so well. In the trainings, you will get the concepts, but then you'll be able to apply those concepts and learn how they work in your business startup. So really, that's what the California Dream Fund will do, and we'll do with this program. Now, there's $35 million. Is that going to be enough? In my opinion, it is not. $35 million statewide is not going to be enough money to fund all the viable and all of the quality startups. Therefore, once these opportunities come for training, it's really important to really be committed to this particular project. I can see that there's going to need to be a very serious commitment, or those funds are going to go to somebody else. So I mentioned, I don't believe 35 million is enough for this particular program statewide. So what are the things that could potentially happen down the road? Well, I did mention that there's the state small business credit initiative. It's $10 billion that came out of ARPA, which is an acronym for the latest stimulus program. And essentially it's 10 billion nationwide, of which we see about 1.1 billion, as you see here on this brochure. You can ask further questions if you'd like through the iBank, or that wonderful acronym, the CPCFA, which you have heard me refer to as the California Pollution Control Financing Authority. And so they will be both doing about 900 million in loans and loan guarantees and incentives for lenders to make loans to smaller individuals. However, in this also, from what we have read in addition, is that, and there is more information on that. I gave you most of that right now, but look at that major goal right at the bottom. The major goal is to get capitals, to deploy capital to socially and economic disadvantaged individuals and very small businesses. So again, there's going to be $200 million taken out, and we'll go over that next for venture capital. And also there's going to be the remainder of that 900 million is going to go to the iBank Small Business Loan Guarantee Program and to the California Pollution Control Authority's CalCap program. And so essentially those are loans through CalCap, at least in the past when this program first started back in 2011 with stimulus funds out of I believe it was the Jobs Act. What it did was it actually then produced guarantees for lenders. And I know one lender was very active, one big lender, and that was Wells Fargo. They were very active in this program. It remains to be seen what small and bigger lenders are going to be available, but they provide incentives in order for these lenders to make more loans to those socially and economically disadvantaged individuals, and also to our very small businesses. So the 200 million I'm talking about, and this program I'm still thinking is a couple of months away. So again, I would love to have you beating on the door today, wanting to sign up for all these. I'm trying to create readiness and awareness of these particular programs. So those of you in the Central California region are prepared and get a lion's share, or at least our fair share of these particular funds, particularly in Kern and Mono County, I might add. So while this establishes a $200 million venture capital fund at the iBank, here is just the only thing that we have seen where that 200 million is going to go. So there's a lot of discussion that's going to be happening on this. One place it's going to go is to underrepresented venture capital managers. So those could be perhaps, when we go back to here and we go back to our socially and economic disadvantaged individuals, it could be those types that are managing funds for those individuals. Right now, we don't have a clear definition other than this. It will also, though, go to underserved entrepreneurs and business owners. And this is where I'm seeing that if we have a program that is going to be established at the iBank, and the iBank is also under GO-Biz, the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, along with the Small Business Advocate Program, which is administering the MicroGrant program, or excuse me, the California Dream Work program. They are also doing the MicroGrant as well. So since they're pretty much under the same house, I'm hoping that some of that 200 million will go to boost the Dream Fund and provide more capital, as I believe that the demand out there that I see and I hear from small business owners in Kern and Mono County is that more capital is going to be needed, startup capital, and hopefully some of it can come from a program that is already coming online. So also, it is going to also pertain to geographic areas that are socially economic development or that receive limited venture capital funds. And I can see that being basically throughout the San Joaquin Valley, the Central Coast, and also the Eastern Sierra and Sierra Nevadas. So I see that as being the central part of California as well. And then number 4, it will be climate equity and climate justice. Okay, I really am looking forward to that definition. So that's what's coming down the line with 3 major grant programs. We just ended up a grant program, the EIDL program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, actually officially referred to as the COVID-19 EIDL program, because the EIDL program is for all forms and shapes of disasters. It's just the largest one in history known to mankind has been the COVID-19 EIDL program or EIDL loan program. So that is, as you know, we had mentioned, they are still taking doing processing. If you want to go through the reconsideration process, you can email SBA at this address. It is PDCRECONS, which I believe stands for, I know the last part of it is recons, is short for reconsiderations. And PDC, I don't know, at SBA.gov. So the one thing that really, what you'd want to do is if you have an EIDL that's been declined, is you want to jump in and you want to just say, hey, why was it declined? And you must address this within 6 months of it being declined. So if it was declined 1.5 years ago, I don't think there's much you can do. Also, you can provide information on why SBA should change the decision. Maybe there was an error. Maybe facts and circumstances changed over those 6 months that would warrant a reconsideration. So you're going to want to include your name and business name, your taxpayer ID, the all-important application, your EIDL application number. Complete a 4506T, which is, of course, is an electronic transfer from the IRS to the SBA of your tax transcripts. And you're going to want to submit for reconsideration. So PPP forgiveness, we're seeing that, so many have actually gone through the reconsideration process. And so many have actually gone and have completed it. In fact, we do have this right here that we'll glance at very quickly. It'll show us that for 2021, we have PPP from 20 and 21. The ones are basically in the 90% level that have been submitted for PPP. There we go. Look at that, high 90s, all the way across the board for PPP 2020. For the 2021 variety, a little lower, down to about 87% to 90. So if you're having any issues with that, you can go and try to get that done. But as we see, that is wrapping up. One thing we are seeing is more along the lines of actually the actual appeal process. So we're looking at this as, and I think you see the appeal share, and it just goes a process of appealing if you did not receive the full PPP forgiveness that you had anticipated. So potentially you maybe had a loan for PPP for $100,000 and you were given a $75,000 forgiveness and you thought it should have been higher. There is a process that you can go through, and we will continue to share this information with you and actually look at the type of appeals that are out there. So, and even gives you an idea of where you can go and the contents that you need. A lot of information if you need to go through the appeal process. I don't think that there's a lot of you out there, but if you do, that's always good to know. So that's about it. We'll be back next week. Our special guest will be Teresa Hitchcock from America's Job Center. And actually, Teresa Hitchcock, her organization actually wrote the grant for the MicroGrant program. And we will go through the very latest, any changes. We'll have a copy of the actual application, the 2-page application. We'll have a date when it starts, and all that'll be next week. So let's jump into your questions right now. Let me hit the chat first. And okay, so got a lot of you. Hello, everybody. It's really, a pleasure to have so many people on. Had over 200 of you sign up today, I believe. So a lot of greetings there. So thank you, everybody, for joining. And wow, looks great. So not many questions in the chat. And thank you. The cake was delicious. So hello, everybody. And well, no, not many questions in the chat. Okay, so here's one. Do you have to live in Kern County for this program? So you do need to live in Kern County for the Kern County MicroGrant program. It is limited to Kern County. However, it was made available to many counties throughout California. So the county where you live might have applied as well. And so what you would want to do is contact your county planning or economic development person. Unfortunately, these were actually made on population. So the allocations for each county were made on allocations. And when we go over to our extremely rural areas of Inyo and Mono County, where we have populations, I don't know, 18, 24,000, there was very little funds available. So the amounts were so much smaller. So, it just goes to show. So if you live in a county, I would contact your county if you are not in Kern. If you are in Kern, you're at the right place. For the California Dream Program, the California Dream Program will probably be available in all 58 counties. We know what's available in the Central California region are going to become available in approximately 4 weeks. So that would be those 14 counties that I identified early on, Central California. And I would wager to guess that it will be available one in all 58 California counties. Okay. Let's see if I can answer any. If we are getting our fictitious business license, will that be counted as what we need as starting out recently? Okay, so on the California Dream Program, that would most likely do that because that was the deadline, or that was the timeline. It was after. You had basically one program that was you needed to be in business before July 1st of 2019 and one after. So a little bit for everybody today. So it would be great. Next is the point. It would be great to see the demographics by dollar for 59 billion already spent in California. The 59 billion, I would believe that was probably for maybe the PPP on the map back there. I don't know exactly what the 59 billion is referencing, but I'm sure that there is information somewhere, somehow. How do we access these training classes? I would just stay, at least here in Central California, remain in contact with your Small Business Development Center network. These will be going, the exact way of how these are going to happen and what is going to happen with these has yet to be determined. So, we'll have more. It's, the famous old stay tuned. So there we go. If you've been denied, there's your resource for reconsideration from EIDL in the chat. Thank you, Maureen, our producer, Maureen Busher-Dang, for providing that information. Are farmer cooperatives eligible for this grant? You know, that's a great question. And I don't have the answer for you, to be honest with you. Farmer cooperatives end up being kind of their own unique little animal at times. And when you say which grant, I would assume that what you're talking about is the California Dream Grant. I'm gonna just give you a guess right now because I don't have the answer, but I'm gonna guess yes, they will be available. Okay, so is there anything available for businesses that started in 2021 in Bakersfield? I've had my Schedule C for years, but lived in LA. If a business, you know, that's going to be a real unique situation. If your business started in 2021 in Bakersfield, it depends if it's an expansion. And, you know, it depends on if it's the same business that you relocated from LA. So that would probably be if you had a business in LA and you moved to Kern County. You know, I don't have the exact answer for you right now. And there are going to be several of these situations that come up. We've learned this with all the pandemic relief programs. We've gone over 18 to 20 of these, and there's always, every situation is not easy to identify in 6 questions if you're eligible. So that is going to be, that is a great question. So keep them coming. Okay, so, you know, if you live in San Luis Obispo County, I would check with your Small Business Development Center there at basically Cal Poly SLO. Check with your Small Business Development Center and see if they are actually doing a MicroGrant program. If you're talking about the DREAM program, absolutely, it's going to be available. So if we are just getting started, maybe we still be eligible for the DREAM. If you're just getting started, you might and very likely could be eligible for the DREAM Fund, yes. Who do you contact in Tulare County? Tulare County, I would contact Gilhadamia, but you can also contact the Community Small Business Development Center out of their Clovis office, and they will let you know in Tulare County if they have the equivalent to the Kern County MicroGrant program, or if you're in Tulare County, you will be eligible for the DREAM Fund, the California DREAM Fund. Thank you, Patrice, for offering up that that there is a DBA publication, the cheapest one, Mountain Enterprise newspaper. Thank you for that. Let's see. Is this webinar going to be available again? Yes, this webinar is being recorded. We will actually send it out to everybody who signed up, and we will do that in an email coming later. Also, every one of our webinars that we have done since the pandemic began, and many of them going back to 2013, are on our CSU SBDC website. That's the acronym for California State University Bakersfield Small Business Development Center. That's our YouTube page, and they're all located there approximately 3 or 4 days after the conclusion of the weekly webinar. If you are in Tehachapi, sure, we can help you. So, production company, please email me that, or let me try to answer that off. It's getting a little bit, we are running long, I believe, and that is a little bit of a question. So if you're starting a production company, Sky, please send me an email, or I'll try to remember to go back to this afterwards. Average turnaround time, you know, a brand new for the California DREAM Fund after completing all the requirements and submitting it. You know, it's a brand new program coming up to speed. I have no history on how long it's going to take. I would probably I would probably be conservative in the amount of time it's going to take to spin things, especially originally, as they do due diligence on all this. But hopefully it should be within a very reasonable time frame. Started a second business. Okay, so if you're a business owner who started a second business, I would contact my SBDC consultant with those specific questions. It's kind of good. I can cheat on that one and go right to there and just say your SBDC consultant can really help you if you're starting a second business in 2020 and your initial business closed due to COVID. So yeah, give Jay a call. So now going over to the Q&A box, we've worked our way through the chat. There will be a list of resources as we generally have provided on many. So we'll go through the resources that are here. I will not be able to put up the actual application process, the 2-page application for the Kern MicroGrant program. We were not intending to do that anyway until it is final. We just wanted to kind of get through the details and let you know about qualification. So it's something you can count on and you can work toward and actually work at getting. Gee, I wished I could help you. I'm sitting on a idle reconsideration, but my tax return is sitting in the $7 million IRS backlog. Don't have an answer for that. Very sorry. So again, and this will be available. I think that does it for the questions. So, well, that wraps it up for today. Remember, we went through 3 really, I think, interesting programs. One will be online as early as the end of next week, start taking applications. After that, what we will do is we will kind of work through the necessary arrangements, get more details on the California Dream Fund, and then also monitor other programs as they come available. So that wraps me up for today. I'm Kelly Bearden with the CSU Bakersfield Small Business Development Center. We'll be back next week with webinar number 99. We're going to talk about hiring, and we're going to talk about the California Relief Grant Program, and also the unique on-the-job training program that you can get up to 50% of the training wages paid for through ETR, the Employment Training Resource of Kern County. So come back next week. We'll see you then. Goodbye, everybody.